Hey, yo, what it do, what it do, what it do? What's everyone up to, man? Happy Thursday. Hopefully everyone's doing good, feeling good. I know I'm doing good, feeling good, man. Happy to be back. Week number 2 for the OnCue Sports Esport or OnCue Esports podcast, man. Appreciate y'all for pulling up, whether you're pulling up live, watching it over on YouTube, or listening on over on any of those podcast platforms, man. Busy day today, busy day. Obviously, last week we kind of talked about, as far as for week number 1, what was going to be going on last week, right? We knew it was going to be a very busy first week of ALGS. We're going to kind of be breaking down all of that, what went down, how everything looked. We got a busy slate of ALGS this coming weekend too. But also, we're going into our first week of RLCS. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Didn't realize that the RLCS events were technically 2 weeks long. We're going to kind of talk about that a little bit as well. We've got captains getting voted off their teams, orgs coming back to RLCS. We've got teams coming back to ALGS. We've got an ALGS champion coming back to the Pro League as well. Nothing much new really in VCT to really be talking about. We actually, that's actually a lie. We were only going to be doing the VCT Americas tier list because there's not really much to talk about. But actually, literally, as I was getting ready to go live, we've got news that DSG is making an announcement. So we're actually going to check that out live. So we're going to do like a live kind of reaction to that, talk about what we got going on there. We've got a pretty packed plate, man. So let's get down and do what it do. If you haven't already done so, maybe do me a favor, man. At the end of this, whenever you're done watching, listening, whatever, make sure you check out the TLDR video over on YouTube, man. I really feel like this one came together very, very well. I feel like I did a really good job as far as kind of breaking down everything, keeping a good pacing throughout the course of the entire video to make sure we knocked out all 4. I think it's like a 16-minute video. So we did a good job kind of knocking everything out. But I do kind of want to go over a little bit from each region, kind of more, maybe not more so in depth than I did in the video, but kind of in a little bit of a different way. All of our regions, we got to see Group A versus B. We'll start in APAC South, since that's typically where we see things starting off anyways. Boogie Borders looked absolutely phenomenal in first week of play, man. It was really game number 6 that we saw them pop off 25 points, took the lead. Otherwise, up until that point, it was Lightning Unicorn, who had a really, really good performance in week number 1. Lightning Unicorn is the squad of Gop Gaps, Jack Cute, Lala Bang, the former Buriram United squad. Looking really solid, a good first week. They're a team that has always had that pop-off potential. I believe they've actually had some good performances back when it was like just online, if I'm not mistaken. I think these 3 players have been playing together for a while, so would love to see them kind of keep some consistency as far as moving forward for sure. Legends Gaming, the team formerly known as Blackhand, their new org, they finished 3rd. Unfortunately, went out very, very early in the last game, so they weren't able to climb up the ladder from there. But I think also some things to keep in mind. Divine, Pricey's new team, who we'll talk about here in a minute, they finished in... Oh, well, I guess it kind of gives it away there. Anyways, Divine finished in 8th place. The biggest surprise to me, though, for real, was Dreamfire, man. Dreamfire, one of the teams that really captured a lot of hearts at Champions. A team that usually has performed very, very well. We talked about it last week on the first episode of OnCue Esports. This is like one of the most, not only seasoned rosters, but these 3 have been playing together since, like, I think almost the start of time of competitive Apex. Like, they've literally been a 3 this long. Kind of weird to see them fall off like this. The good news for them is now with the region having 8 spots as opposed to the 5 that it had in the past, 1 week doesn't necessarily like disqualify you from the run of being able to have, a spot for LAN. They are going to have to make sure they turn up from here on out. They have been doing pretty good in scrims this week, so that's good news for them so far. But again, really the big thing, Boogie Borders. Also, there's the what's the Asian league called? FLL. Oh God, I'm gonna feel really bad for having that wrong if it's wrong. It's one of those. But they had a really good week as far as in that as well. It just seems like this squad really clicking. Rocky, Fussy, Penny, 3 really talented individuals. Rocky and Fussy having the experience from before from Boogie Borders, Penny, from IBG originally, then Tom Young Kung. So, Penny is one of those that knows what it takes to finish at the top. Did that in split number 1 last year with Iron Blood Gaming. So, let's see how they do as far as this coming week. I believe they've I shouldn't say I believe, But since they did play in week number 1, they'll only have one group, and it is going to be double headers in the APAC region. As far as over in APAC North, I think really, I don't want to say there were any big surprises. Maybe Fennel down in 17th, although it is a different roster from past years. North Epsion only kind of looking meh. They won, what game did they win? They won game 4, I think it was. Nope, I lied. They won game 2. They had 23 points in game number 2, 30 points after 3, and then they finished with 40 points. So kind of a disappointing back end of the day for them. Obviously, we saw what their potential was. We also saw what their floor can be, though, unfortunately. Reject looked pretty good throughout the course of the day. A couple of big games at the end. I mean, really, it was their lobby. Everyone else was playing on it once they went to World's Edge. Reject is the former Realize squad. Looked really, really good in week number 1. Out in EU, again, another squad. We saw another squad that's been together for, in this case, not so much for a while. But when we think about EU, right, EU is out in the land where we saw all the changes in the offseason, all the long-time duos splitting up, and Alliance, instead, they are, they finished with 27 points, and they did really good in the, comparatively. They did pretty solid in the first couple games. 10 points in game number 1 off a 5th place finish. Another 10 points in game number 2. So they had 20 points after 2. But then finished down with 27. Just really struggled once they got to World's Edge. I believe on World's Edge, zones were kind of pulling away from them, but that's really no excuse for a seasoned roster like that, right? Element 6-0, Case winning his new squad. Performed really, really well. I mean, everyone fragging out of their minds. 36 kills for the 3 of them. Orgulus and Hungry, the previously known Vex roster, I believe. I don't think we even got to talk about Vex closing last week. I think that actually happened after the podcast for episode 1. But Vex closed its door. Their squad, though, still popped off and performed in week number 3. And then Naske's team, 07, also doing really good. I think another team to kind of keep an eye out for, even though they only finished in 10th, but it was their first weekend after PLQs, and that's going to be 40% worse. Had some earlier eliminations in a couple of games. I feel like you get 1 or 2 of those where you finish towards the end, and all of a sudden you're talking about a top 5, 6 potential. I know Shiv's still kind of resting the hands after the injury. But I feel like this is a squad that the later it gets into split number 1, they're going to be looking better. And I think with them looking this solid up front, I don't think this is a squad that will be looking down towards the relegation area towards the end of split 1 either. But I would say overall, can I say EU was the closest lobby though? I mean, I guess technically with the 2 points. No, yeah, EU probably was the closest lobby of the 4 regions. To start things off in week number 1. And then North America, of course, everyone's favorite. Crazy to think that we didn't really see much from Dark Zero during the off season. I mean, some scrim performances here and there, but I mean, scrims are scrims, right? Like, let's be real. But we're in year 4. A whole bunch of things have changed. The meta's switched a little bit. Dark Zero, had a roster change, but the one thing that is still consistent starting off year number 4 is it's Dark Zero and TSM fighting it out at the top of a leaderboard by a good bit too. I mean, TSM had a 21-point lead over Elevate Gaming. Also, big shout out to Elevate. Remember, they were one of the PLQ squads. I think the one PLQ squad I would say from any of the regions, I think most people have the highest expectations for. So for them to come out, especially in a lobby that's this stacked. Is their lobby versus Group C more stacked? Because C is kind of the group of death. I mean, I guess that just goes to show, I mean, NA, man. There's just so many strong squads. Even some teams that you wouldn't really necessarily expect to underperform down towards the bottom. I'm looking at teams like, PLP, DNO, Complexity even down in 12th. Obviously, when we talk about like 5th through 12th only be an 8-point difference. Something to keep in mind. That tends to happen, obviously, right? When you have a lot of these teams at the top of the scoreboard that are soaking in a lot of those points, the Dark Zeros and the TSMs of the world out there. But LG looking decent in their first performance under their new roster. Couldn't help but laugh during the halftime where they brought Jayhawk on to the broadcast. He was pointing out Optic because they had, really underperformed on Stormpoint. They had gone out in 19th, 14th, and 9th, and only getting like 8 points or something like that. And I think it was Game 4 they started to turn around. Game 5 they were doing decent. Then games, they just kind of chugged away with, just pecking at the points. And able to make sure they got what they needed to just come out on top of. There were 4 teams right behind them within 2 points. So it really kind of shows you the strength of NA. Both of these lobbies, I think, when they play against Group C this coming weekend, is going to be really, really fun to watch. Honestly, this whole weekend is going to be dope. I originally thought we were going to be watching a lot of RLCS, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, but RLCS is really going to be more focused next week. But that's week number 1, man. A lot of fun. Some things and kind of drama that broke down from week number 1. I did want to talk about, though, just very briefly. I don't really want to cover drama too much. But I do think it talks on a bigger problem that we have seen consistently, especially in Apex. We've got to figure out something they can do about these roster changes. We saw it last year after, I want to say it was PLQs where teams tried to make, no, it was PLQs last year, for set 2 in NA. Like people trying to make teammate changes like right after the rip. Obviously GKS has their roster changed, but that seems to all be on the up and up and seems to be more discussed amongst the players in the background. But I think the thing that I'm more talking about, right, in these cases is one bad performance and all of a sudden the captain and a sub can vote to get the other players removed and then just like basically revamp the roster. I don't know, man. I don't know what the changes are that you would do to change like the whole roster change dilemma. Is the dilemma the best part to call it? Because there are like ways that it can be like, it can come out really slimy. We even saw it with the whole phase thing, right? With Snipe Down, who was the captain, all of a sudden getting removed as captain, although his team ends up getting picked up by FaZe later, but that's a whole nother topic. Maybe we can talk to him about that. But get removed as, you know what I mean? I don't know. The whole thing's very, very strange to me. I don't know what the fix is from EA. Or I guess that would be more on the ALGS itself as far as like what that roster rule has to look like. I understand having to keep 2 players to keep a pro spot for the next season. And I don't necessarily think that having a roster lock per se is the fix. Because obviously stuff happens. You don't want people to feel like they're stuck for the entirety of a split either. But there's got to be something that they can do to prevent these things from happening. Now, the cool thing is, justice ended up prevailing. The captain ended up talking to Plexus, or not the captain, the sub ended up talking to Plexus. And instead, they turned around the vote and voted off the captain. And Plexus is keep the team. I don't know if they've announced who their third's going to be moving forward. But again, it was more the situation than the story itself, because we have seen this in the past. I believe it was, who was it in NA last year in Split 2? It was like literally the first team from PLQs. But yeah, let me know what you guys think as far as in the comments down on YouTube, man. Let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you're watching on YouTube after the fact here, feel free, you can start tuning in live and jumping out in the Discord, which we've got down in the description. Because I do think we're going to start doing daytime recording. I do kind of like to do this during my normal stream time. I think I'm going to like kind of setting it up this way here for the future. Because we're probably just going to end up gaming for a bit afterwards anyways. But we see the situation come up all the time. I'm curious if any of y'all have a solution. Again, I don't think roster locks is the fix. But there's got to be something that makes it harder for essentially a captain and a sub to be able to just flip a team. Because right now it's just too easy. Some other news, though, that came out after week number 1. Let's go hang out with our homie Brad real quick. B-Rad does a lot of the stuff in APAC South. Where's the news? So the first thing is, and I actually shared this as well over on my Twitter, at YoBoyCue, by the way. But Pricey posted, this was the 23rd, so 2 days ago when we were recording this. Way and Pricey had parted ways with Shady for the rest of the Pro League, and Team Burger is making a return with their third being Sharky. So Team Burger, a team that garnered a lot of attention at Champions 2 years ago. So that had been Champions for year 2. Had a big old cheering section. Your boy even had a sign. Unfortunately, I left my sign in the stadium. I was actually a big sad about that. But always been a Burger fan. Plus seeing Sharky back is really, really cool. I want to see. I feel like Sharky and Pricey being that guy that we talked about last episode, right? Like last year before his break, I think could be argued was like one of the most underrated talents in the world, one of the best players in the world. And then you combine that with Sharky, who obviously has had proven success, and Way as well has had some proven success in their own right? So, Team Burger will be back in week number 2. Should be a lot of fun to see that. But not only that in APAC South, y'all will remember in my PLQ4 video for APAC South, I had also mentioned how Kiloposz, I'm not really sure which one of those pronunciations is right, didn't make Pro League, actually was on a team with Sharky, and would only have to play if they ended up coming back. It's been confirmed Kiloposz will be with Crusader and Yukoi for Pro League on the Akuma squad. Akuma! So really cool to see like 2 vets in the region, both Kiloposz as well as Sharky returning for APAC South. Should be a lot of fun. Both of them will be playing this week, as we're going to be talking about here in a minute. Actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and talk about what we've got coming up this week. Actually, before we talk about this coming up this week, let's talk about this coming up week, and then we'll talk about tech at the end. So we've got double the pleasure, double the fun in all regions. So in APAC South, we're going to be starting off with watch parties. Games start off at 11 Friday evening going into Saturday. We'll probably go live around 10:40, 10:45 over everywhere where we go live at. So feel free to stop by if that's your thing. If you got the time, if you're awake, if you want to watch it. But Group A versus Group C is first. Of course, Group C is the one group that we haven't seen yet. So that's going to be MDY White, Iron Blood Gaming, the 2 teams I would say most notable, right? They'll also have MDY BYD, MDY Black, who were one of the qualifying teams. I think also another team to keep an eye out for. They actually had a really good day in scrims this morning, I saw, was XNY. XNY is the team that last year during qualifiers, oh man, what was it? They popped off for like a 40-something kill, or was it 40-something kills? It was some outlandish amount of kills. I'll see if I can find that clip. It was it was wild. Those kids can frag, man. Now, of course, the one thing that you always got to worry about those teams, especially when you get to the international stage, since they do like to run it down, on the international stage, sometimes that play isn't quite as successful, but I feel like that is a play style, especially in APAC South. We've seen in the past some of the teams at the top tend to run. I do think the Group A versus Group B series last week was a little bit different from what we're used to seeing. I think we actually saw a lot more of that low and slow, that kind of traditional NA, EMEA sort of play style we saw last week. So I'll be interested to see if A versus C plays out that way. But this will be a really fun lobby to start off with. So that means in this lobby here, we will have Akuma. So the return of Sharky. Sorry. The return of Kiloposz with Akuma. We'll have the return of Sharky with Divine or Burger. I'm guessing they have to probably keep the name Divine for the rest of the split. We'll have to call themselves Burger in split 2. You've got Legends Gaming, who are Black Can. Lightning Unicorn, the previous Berry Rom United Esports roster that just won week 1. You've got Iron Blood Gaming, who finished, 10th at Champions and kept their same roster. You have MDY White. This lobby is going to be really, really fun to watch. I feel like, too, going back to the X and Y thing, I feel like as far as for X and Y, that just goes back to prove the point of, for them, this will be like a really good indicator of if their play style will be able to hold up against their regional opponents, because this lobby's stacked. So again, that's going to be our lobby. That's at 11 p.m. on Friday night. And then following that up is A versus C. So that C group back together again. That means then they'll be running it down against Boogie Borders. Dreamfire has looked really good this week in scrims. Of course, you know, scrims are scrims, but they are going to need to bounce back this week. Kakoi was sitting in 5th in the lobby last week. So I would say if I'm Group C, I would probably prefer to play Group A first. Not that Group B is much of a fall off from Group A, but that Group A lobby is going to be absolutely insane. I don't want to spend too much time going through this week, but let's just, as far as like kind of blaze through the rest of Apex here, because we do still got quite a bit more on the docket to kind of hit today. Group C in APAC North, though, Fnatic we didn't see yet, and Pulverex. Those are the two biggest ones. I talked a lot last week about Pulverex. I feel like Pulverex is probably the one squad of the teams at the top that did a lot of roster changing. I feel like really came out ahead. So I'm going to be really interested to see Pulverex as well as the new Fnatic roster. Ritter Order had a pretty decent week last week. Reject obviously won the lobby. We'll see if they can kind of keep things going. Northeption had a decent day, but they are a team that we are used to seeing towards the top of the leaderboard. So I will be seeing, hoping to see a little bit better performance from them, especially since their last 4 games really weren't the best. But that's what we'll start off with on Saturday evening, heading into Sunday. Of course, we do still have our first groups of NA and EMEA, but we're not going to switch back and forth on these pages. Group B, there'll be the same Group C teams, adding in Crazy Raccoon. I would say, especially for Group C here, I feel like Group B is definitely the way you'd want to go for your next couple of them. Kinetrope Gaming, though, you do also have to worry about. They looked pretty solid in week 1. But I do think the front half of the two, kind of like the same way that we saw in APAC South, is going to be the way to go. EMEA, we're also going to have double sessions, except they're split up. So that means that Saturday during the day, whereas normally like last week we had that break between APAC South and APAC North. Starting at 1 will be Saturday. Group C teams that we didn't see last week that we'll probably want to be keeping an eye out for. I would probably say Aurora. You got Hardecki making the comeback. Go Next. Looking pretty solid. I feel like the Seed de France kind of turned things around towards the end of the split last year. But obviously Element 6, who just won week 1, is going to be in this lobby. You've also got 07, which is Nasky's team. Again, 40% worse in there. And then Group B will be after that. And then in North America, we start off Group C, teams that we haven't seen yet. Furia should be really fun to watch. I honestly think this is going to be a good indicator of what this new Furia roster can do. I have a feeling we're going to see them try and run it down. Something that is a playstyle that obviously Watson enjoys. Also, we'll see the Disguise roster, the previous Dojo roster. Moist Esports making their NA debut, as well as Tech and Sentinels and XSET. The one thing I wanted to talk about as far as for Tech is more so on his Sunday game, because that's when they're going to be... Wait, did I just totally overlook? I did it there, didn't I? Bro, I'm going to get roasted by YouTube. Also, obviously, in A versus C, there's TSM there too. Now, one thing Tech posted as far as for the Group A versus C, they've given up their contest on both maps. So now TSM, I think part of the reason for that is because of how well TSM did. Raven kind of had some thoughts as far as on that, but they've now changed their contest spots. They're no longer contesting TSM, even having some fun with like their announcements here, talking about eviction and stuff. They've been having some fun with it. You love to see, obviously, competitive ALGS is serious because it's for money, but them still being able to have some fun with it, right? But I did kind of want to go over this and get your guys' thoughts. This was on Raven's stream when the news about Tech leaving the contest
You
happen.
see Midi going climbing now? Are they?
All
Let me
right,
see.
perfect.
What? Since when? The Meat real estate portfolio is expanding. Our
Nailed it. We love it.
previous acquisition.
Let's refresh this probably, huh?
Do you see Midi going climbing now? Are they? Let me see. What? Since when? The Meat real estate portfolio is expanding. Our previous acquisition at Launchpad went smoothly, and we thank the previous tenants for their cooperation. Dear tenants of Evolution, to the above tenants and all others in possession of the described premises, you are hereby given notice to quit, vacate, and deliver possession of Climatizer A versus C premises within 1 day from the service of this notice. You are being vacated for the following reasons. Meat is invading your home. Reese is married now. It is... What the fuck does that have to do with it? That's funny though. Okay, anyways. It is understood and agreed upon that the current tenants, Evolution, are responsible for all repairs and cleaning to restore the above premises Climatizer to moving condition. If failure, refusal, or neglect to vacate said premises within 1 day from the service notice, the leasing office and property management Meat LLC will take deadly action as the Meat law requires you to evict you and all others from those premises. We really created a monster. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Yo, we really did that. That's crazy. Wait, Tech actually just fucking... He contested us for like 2 months, hit the fucking hyperbolic time chamber of contesting, and now he's just gonna go shit on these poor teams. Holy shit. But I think I know what Tech's plan is. I'm pretty sure I have an idea what Tech's
All right, check us out, chat.
Tech is going to try his absolute... He saw us get second place. So he knows there's a lot of pressure on him because, okay, let's just make it clear. The only way a team kicks us out of a POI, by the way, is if they somehow get us to not call for LAN, which is like pretty fucking hard. Even if you double contest us on the days that we play together, we have these like really good POIs the other days, right? So it's really hard. You have to rely on us not making LAN to kick us out of our POIs, or else. A lot of these teams are like, yeah, I'm never going to leave my POIs. I'm contesting forever. I don't have anything to lose. Bitch, I will contest you because I know that you're not going to be able to impact us in the other groups. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, I am confident that we can get enough points in the other groups. And I always knew that. That's part of the reason why we went Elrod, because Mate wasn't in our group. Right? It was fine. The other thing is, like, because Meat was contesting us for 2 months, and I looked at the fucking calendar. I realized it was going to be 2 months of contesting. I knew that by the time it gets to ALGS, there's no way he can have any hidden strats. For really. Like, sure he could,
like
yes.
But broken everything out by now. That makes sense.
That means he'd have to sandbag all of scrims, and it'd be really hard to do that. Anyways, yeah, I think Tech's plan, though, is to qualify for LAN and then contest us for LAN at Elrod.
All right, so what's your all's thoughts, chat? I feel like definitely an interesting situation
where there's higher stakes,
just in the sense of
that's going to be his.
What's the best way of putting it? It's really interesting because you did like 2 months. You don't back down one bit from contesting TSM. You're always there. I don't know if this was always the plan or if it really was just about seeing how well TSM did in week number 1 and was like, maybe we need to reassess the situation. But regardless, I feel like best for business move for Tech, because Tech knows he's going to have to put together, 6 good weeks if Meat Lovers is going to want to qualify. I mean, we saw behind Elevate Gaming just how close the scoreboard was. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, that's just the whole, that's what had to happen. Otherwise, you contest them, one bad week? Let's say because they're already hot from week 1. They come in, they smack you around week 2 on the contest, which then has the vibes bad for then in the next lobby, which you're playing the next day. So I think a smart move for Tech. I think especially understanding his 2 teammates, I don't think have the most of experience. But they did get all those quality reps contesting, which is going to be huge for them. But obviously, as I was saying earlier, ALGS is going to be busy this weekend. Or did I say RLCS? ALGS is going to be busy this weekend. And it starts Friday evening. So tomorrow, if y'all are watching live, today, if you're watching it on the day of release on YouTube, this evening, so 11 p.m. Eastern time, we're probably going to be popping live at 10:40-ish or so. All right? Kind of getting things set up, and we'll be ready for that double banger over there. But we've got that on Friday night into Saturday. Saturday, we'll take a quick nap after that's done because the second lobby starts at 3 p.m. We're going to get done probably like 6:30. Your boy will take a nap, and then we're up for 1 p.m. on EMEA. I'm going to see how I feel for NA on Saturday. If there's one of them I'll probably miss, there's a good chance it'll probably be NA on Saturday, just because I want to make sure that we are like up and ready to go for the doubleheader for APAC North. So stand by on that. If you want to make sure that you're staying in tune, obviously use the Discord that's down in the description anywhere you're watching after the fact, or also it's over here on the Purple app as well. But busy weekend for ALGS. Really excited to see what kind of comes up here. Also a busy weekend, though, for RLCS. RLCS kicks off tomorrow, actually technically here in right now it is 10:50 as we're recording this. So here in little over 12 hours, like 15 hours or something like that, is the start of OCE, which is going to be the first region. The first weekend is all part of the double elim brackets. We might have some of them up on watch parties in between series for ALGS, but since it's only going to be the double elimination phase, we shouldn't be seeing too many upsets. I think I want to stick to ALGS this weekend. You best believe, though, next weekend on Saturday and Sunday, when we can pretty much watch top 8 and top 4 matchups from the start of the day until the end of the day, that's what we're going to be doing. And we'll be watching some ALGS in between at that point next weekend. All right. It is interesting, though. They talked about it on the Chalkcast podcast, and I've seen a couple other people talking about it. I've really seen some pros bringing it up over on Twitter. But the seeding's all sort of funky, especially for transfers, especially more particularly for transfers from smaller regions into bigger regions and regions where they kind of overperformed compared to some of the more deep regions that they're transferring to, because they had so many RLCS points. They're getting better seeds, which is really tough because this year we've seen record registrations for RLCS. I think part of that's because the prize pool is expanded to the widest prize pool that they've ever had. Everybody getting some money, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, with that, it does mean some of the smaller regions are being infiltrated from the bigger regions. Over in SSA, I can think of in particular, and the reason that one stands out to me the most, one, it's the one that's being talked about the most. But two, for me, I worked over on the main desk over there last season, hoping to be back this season. Haven't heard definite for sure, but I know that over in SSA, they're seeing a lot of EU teams, MENA teams, which is unfortunate because that region does get a guaranteed slot this year. And now all of a sudden there is a potential that it's not even represented by somebody who's from the actual region. Whereas like in the past, you had to live in that actual region in order to participate. Now, if I wanted to, I could participate over in SSA if I wanted to. I just had to register. The only thing is, once I registered to compete in, like, let's say a different region for RLCS, I then have to play the remainder of that split. So if I were to go over to SSA and realize that I don't want to play on 240 ping, all of a sudden I'm stuck on 240 ping. You know what I mean? Like, so that's like the only trade-off. But I think EU gets pretty decent ping to SSA, if I'm not mistaken, as well as MENA. So we'll kind of see how these first couple weeks play out. Definitely understand as far as for... I mean, you can understand for both sides, right? Like for the players who are going to a smaller region, one, because they know there's a better chance of just them getting any sort of money. Like when there's money on the table, the rules change. It's just human nature. You know what I mean? Especially in any sort of competition. I feel like, if anything, when widening the pool, they should have at least done one more year before going into the open pool. But there was just some suits sitting around a table. We're like, let's expand the prize pool to see if it gets more people interested. And then all of a sudden they're going to see, record-breaking registration. They're going to call it a success. They're not even going to think about everything else in between, unfortunately. Feels like this shouldn't be a thing. I do got to say, and I got to give a big shout out to one of the players from the South, from the Sub-Saharan African region. Blackstar, I saw he had a post. I responded to him on Twitter. Actually, let me pull it up here real quick, just because I don't want to misquote it. I'll make sure I put it up on the screen post-production. Did he take it down? Bro. Oh, let me be honest. I'm glad that good EU players are coming over to see SSA. Time to learn from insane players. And I think that's a great thought process to have, right? Like, you're going to be scrimming against, you're not just going to be learning from them on game day, but for the teams that are spending a lot of time, scrimming and stuff like that, you've got a lot of time to learn. I think that's a W mentality to have. And I think it's a good way to approach things moving forward, again, for a very unfortunate situation. It was also announced, though, let's talk about it real quick. TSM, we talked about last week, back in Rocket League, was officially announced. Kind of crazy to think that people thought I was crazy on the Bandits on Wheels Fall Showdown. I think it was Fall Showdown. My bad. When I broke out the TSM fan, but it is official. They're back. I'm going to try and see if I can get a hold of whoever it is that's going to be helping do the TSM broadcasts. Would love to help Cass over there, man. Wavy, Hockey, Creams, 3 insanely talented Rocket League players. We've gotten to kind of see them through the bubble scene a little bit before they started doing more of the 6-man's work, but definitely going to be fun to watch them put in work. Should be really, really cool. Anything else for RLCS I can think of before we move on to VCT and do our tier list here? Oh, since we're heading into the thing, I want to talk about Dignitas, man. Dignitas has looked really, really good since their acquisition of Arsenal. Their new roster's looking solid. They have now won back-to-back Bandits on Wheels. Now, obviously, off-season showcase as opposed to, RLCS. We'll see how they look come RLCS play. But y'all know I'm an Arsenal fan. As much as I was, cheering for Space Station last year, probably going to see me doing some of that for Dignitas this year. Glad to see that they're looking good. But as far as for the preseason and heading into the new season, man, I'm really excited to see how the new format works. I understand from the initial kickback thought, especially of, you're only having NA and EU broadcasts, as far as like official broadcasts. They're gonna have broadcasts in every region, but like actual, like, I guess sponsored or whatever partnered broadcasts, right? But there's the worry about the broadcasts kind of butting up against one another and competing against one another. I was kind of looking at the time slots, and again, particularly for like the day of top 8 and top 4, like those, like next weekend for RLCS is kind of going to be banging. I'm kind of excited to do watch parties for it because we'll literally be able to start at like 3 a.m. in the morning if we want. Although we'll probably at least, we'll see. We might see what we end up doing on Friday. Because we could go from 3 until like 9 p.m. watching OCE to APAC to SSA to MENA, or maybe it's MENA to APAC, or MENA to SSA to EU to SA and then NA. Like, you could literally watch, like, throughout the entirety of a day, just watch nothing but top 8 and top 4 Rocket League. It's going to be so cool. I can't wait for next weekend for that. Like I said, we'll watch a little bit of RLCS in between our watch parties for ALGS this weekend, especially like when, Friday into Saturday, like that little hour break in between series. Like, we'll probably pull up some OCE and watch it. You know what I mean? Same thing the next day with APAC North. Might pull up some OCE and watch it. So we'll definitely kind of be keeping a loose eye on RLCS, but since this week is a lot of like the 1 seed versus like the 800 seed in open brackets, like there's no reason for it. Like, let's be real. You know what I mean? But we'll watch a little bit of RLCS. We'll at least kind of check in on what the brackets look like next week on the OnCue podcast, though, for sure. Let's talk some VCT, y'all. Actually, I'm excited to hear this. I only saw this news as I was prepping for the stream, so I might have to do a little bit of research while we're actually playing this here. But let's check it out.
To an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Yay, oh buddy, how you doing? So, ready to come back to America? Yay, so when you're coming back? Yay, you gotta help me out, buddy, for old time's sake.
This is strange because it didn't work, right?
Please,
Did Yay and DSG work? Why is this even a thing?
Toast, what's up?
Yay, don't hang up. But will you come back and play for DSG?
Toast, I just need some space.
You gotta come back, man. Please, Yay, please.
Toast, you know I'm with Bleed now.
Well, can Bleed help me make a tier 2 team?
Toast, it's not like I could tell Bleed to help build your entire team for challengers. Unless...
Toast, I'll call you right back.
Hey everyone, it's Toast. I'm here to announce our plans for our Valorant
I was just blazing
team
y'all's
in
eardrums out, that's my bad, chat.
2024. Now, a lot of you have been awaiting news for a while after our incredible entry into the North American Valorant scene in 2023.
Skies has made it to Challengers.
And now disastrous implosion in also 2023.
Toast? Toast is just money. Someone check his beat. His poor little heart, dude.
We've been teasing this for quite a while, so today I'm very happy to be able to tell you guys what we're actually doing. We are partnering up with a Singaporean team called Bleed, who have recently
But they just
qualified
ascended, so
for
why would they have a
Ascension. Now, a lot of
challengers
people
team?
might be asking, wow, Toast, why are you going to Asia when I stay in North America? For those who don't
His
know, I
background.
actually grew up in a country called Malaysia between the ages of 1 and 13. That's where I spent my childhood. I lived on this small island called Penang off the coast of Malaysia. It's so tiny you can't even see it. I went to an English school and then I bounced between that and a Chinese school, and that's kind of where I got my education, the environment I grew up in. And at the age of 12, I immigrated to Canada. And since then, I've never been back to Malaysia, and that's one of the things I miss. I never had a chance to go back. So last year, after our team failed to make
So
challengers,
DSG is going to
Bleed's
Pacific?
head coach Legia approached me and asked, hey, does DSG have any interest in partnering up with Bleed for 2024? Because Bleed was the team that won Ascension in the Asia Pacific region, which means their Singaporean team gets to go to Korea and compete against all the Asian teams like DRX, T1,
Wait, so is he
Beta,
getting
PRX,
the DSG
all
squad?
the big dogs in Asia, which means they have these
Or, sorry, the
resources
Bleed
in
squad?
Singapore that are now not being used, and they approached us saying, hey, we would love to help you guys out. We love what you're doing. And we accepted. And it was really nice of them. We're going to be using some of their facilities. They are going to provide on-site support. So the team will be competing in the Malaysian, Singaporean region.
Oh,
If they win that, they get to go to Ascension in Asia Pacific. And if they win that, we actually become one of the 11 franchise teams over in Asia. Part of my goal is to grow DSG not just in North America, but also
That's
in
smart
other
though,
regions
to have a
and other
global
platforms.
brand.
And this seems like a great first step.
That's
for them.
brilliant.
Obviously, I'm gonna miss NA a lot. I'm gonna miss all the rivalries. I'm gonna miss the watch parties with Tarek. I don't know if he's waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning to watch the Singaporean Malaysian games with me. I hope he does.
I was gonna say he will. You know he
We're
will.
still committed to having a brand in North America, have a league team, we still have an Apex team, but I want to expand and try something different. So for this year, we will be in Asia for our Valorant.
Dude, Disguised Host
Get
is
to know
killing it.
the Southeast Asian community, because that's one of the strongest community we've seen in recent years. And I want to get to know them. I want to understand the space more. And with Bleed's help, I think we can achieve that. We've seen Bleed ascend to one of the franchise team last year. They did an incredible job beating out the best challengers team from Korea and Philippines and India. And with their help, we hope we can continue that tradition. I'm really excited for it because this is essentially my chance to kind of go back to an area where I came from. So yeah, I hope all of you in NA can continue to support DSG.
All right, so he is going to be making a challengers squad over in the Pacific, huh? In combination with Bleed, because the Bleed team is going to have to be on location to where the, you know, all the Pro League stuff is at. So, huh. Again, I love the thoughts of Disguised Toast having a global brand, right? I do really enjoy that. Like, I think that's like a great move for him, especially because he, you know, again, as he had mentioned, keeping his League of Legends squad, keeping the Apex squad. I think those are the only rosters that he has for now because they let go of their Game Changers roster, I'm pretty sure, right? So, I don't know, man. I think really cool. I wonder if that means that they'll have to do a whole different branding for like the Mandarin coverage. I think it's Mandarin, right? Whatever the like the local dialect is. I don't know. A brilliant move though, regardless. But originally, chat, I was not talking about that today. Because that just dropped literally right before we popped live. So if y'all didn't know about it, if you don't know, now you know. It's kind of get a chance to break some news. I think that's one of the things I like about doing these daytime things, man. Might be having something to do as far as for our recordings here in the future. But I think I feel like I have a little bit more energy doing like the 10 p.m. when we normally do our streaming on the days that we actually get to do some gaming streams. So maybe look forward to us doing that in the future as well. But let's do this tier list real quick. VCT Americas. I tried looking around for a few to do more like your traditional, you know, S through D tier. Most of the lists that were current had it this way. And I figured, you know what? Let's see how close we could get it. I don't know, chat. Do we start off like with our top pick? Like, do we start in the number 1 seed, or do we start from the bottom? Do we do like for serious from the bottom? Because like I think we would all love to see EG finish 11th, right? Like after everything that happened. But I unfortunately don't think that's going to be the case. I think if we are going to be doing this in all seriousness, kind of talk about some of the off-season changes. I don't think I feel like I know enough about MIBR's changes that they've made. I feel like it's mostly the same roster that really didn't perform at all last year, which is unfortunate for MIBR. I think they're going to be feeders this year. I wouldn't be playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they win a game. Yeah, I think MIBR ends up finishing in the 11th spot. 9th, 10th. Go on a run. I do think we would have, do we have Crew? Unless Crew goes on a crazy run. Do we think they finished 9th or 10th, chat? So I do feel like this is probably our 9-10 here. Even though they still have Jogamo, and if we're doing ascending, so that means that this would be 9, 10, 11. I think EG probably in the 9th spot. I mean, the EG squad's like what? Tier 2 players and like the 100 Thieves reject squad. I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see even EG down in 11th, but I do think you would have this order: MIBR in 11th, Crew in 10th, EG in 9th. I think in the 8th spot, probably looking at Furia. Furia, they picked up Havoc from Union. They did lose QCK. I feel like Furia is still in the 8th spot, though. I don't think I've seen enough otherwise to expect them to really ascend. Remember, Furia had that weird run at the start of the regular season last year in the Americas, but then they just absolutely fell on their face. It felt like QCK was their only performer. As much as I liked what I saw from Havoc in Challengers, like we all know what we know the skill diff, right? I think probably takes some time to adjust. I think 8th is probably where we're looking for them. And I'm sorry, South America, LATAM, like It ain't me hating, dog. But 3 of the 4 teams in the bottom are going to be South American, Latin American. It's the rules, not the rules, but it's the way that it's the truth, and the truth sometimes hurts. I'm sorry. I do think 100 Thieves probably finishes in 7th. I think we're in the middle of the pack where this is going to be where, probably 4 through 7 could be quite interchangeable. 5 through 7, maybe. We'll have to see how we go. But I do think 100 Thieves, if they have a very good start to their season, they get some confidence going, maybe that's when we see them make a run up into like the 4th position, right? But I feel like they've kind of gotten used to just being in the league. They're there. That's it. You know what I mean? I think they finished 7th. Maybe they catch a hot streak and get A-Land, but I don't think they're a team that we see a whole lot of consistency from. I think even as far as we talk about consistency, I think G2 is going to take a little bit of time getting used to the consistent high level of play, even from teams like MIBR, Crew, EG, teams that we said are going to be feeders this year, right? Even though they picked up Leaf, and I know Leaf had a really good year last year, I think they finished in 6th. And I think the reason for that is you'll see some of these teams that are left down here. I don't think they are of that caliber. They aren't of the caliber of Sentinel, Cloud9, Leviathan, Loud, NRG. I think they're just outside of that. Could they maybe build to that through Split 2? Maybe. But I think when we're talking about right now, going in from the preseason, getting ready to start the season off, I think G2 sitting firmly in that 6th position, middle of the road, stuck between 2 sides, committed to doing wrong and doing what's right. No, I do think that's just a really good spot for them. Because I do think that Cloud9 would probably be where I start with these final 5. Cloud9's looked really solid. I feel like with their changes, but Leaf's kind of a little bit of a fall off. So I think with losing Leaf, even though they went, 8-1, 9-1, whatever it was last year during regular season, I do think we see them fall off a little bit in Americas. Also, because we've had some of these other teams kind of jump up ahead of them, right? So I think having them sitting just outside the top 4. Cloud9, though, another one of those teams, if they have a really good start and get some confidence and start feeling themselves, man, don't be surprised to see them 3rd, 2nd place. Honestly, 5th through 2nd, 3rd. I mean, honestly, 5th through the top could be really interchangeable based off of momentum and things like that. We know how quickly the wheels can come off of teams, and we know how hard it can be to stop, buses once they get rolling. They'll just start crushing over everything. So I do think Cloud9 in 5th is probably the best way to go. I know I teased earlier about Sentinels in 1st. I do think Sentinels probably finishes 4th. Just because I do think Leviathan and Loud have better rosters. I think NRG, obviously, their ceiling is incredibly high. It just seems like that's the Monstars down there in NRG. Could potentially be. We also know sometimes you put all the best players together and it doesn't always work out. So I don't know though. As far as for Sentinels, I mean they got Zelsis from C9 was one of the changes for the Cloud9 that we were talking about, kind of their fall off, right? They also got John QT from M80. And John QT's kind of been fitting in pretty decent with the squad. I know everyone always loves to hype up the Sentinels when it comes to VCT. They're a fan base that's very easily hyped, and people buy their hype of Sentinel very quickly. I think maybe they still potentially qualify for A-Land, but I don't think they are a team that we see consistently dominating week after week. I think even if they finish in at 4th, it's going to be one of those things where 4th through 7th, it's going to be super, super tight, a difference of 2 games between the 4. And Sentinels comes out on top through some tiebreaker or something, right? But that brings us to our top 3 chat, and VCT is Americas. And y'all can see down there, only one NA team. I think I've already kind of given away a little bit where I'm going to end up putting them. I think the question between these last couple of teams, all of them have had some big roster moves. NRG's picked up some studs. Leviathan's picked up some studs, right? But Loud, they lost Aspes, and their only pickup was QCK, which was from Furia. I'm pretty sure. I think it's the rest of the same core, right? So the question becomes, do we take the team that's going to have the consistency and the chemistry, the team that realistically was probably the best, or that realistically was the best squad in Americas last year? Do we think that Sadak can keep that going at the top and put Loud up there? Do we think that Aspas was that big of a player that he goes out and they're all of a sudden down to 3, or is it somewhere in between the two? I think personally, I think Loud would probably end up in the 3 spot. And I think the reason for that is, despite some of the rumors of some of the drama in Leviathan, I really like how this Leviathan team's coming together. You got Aspas. You got Tex, who has that winning mentality coming up from Challengers, where they were just putting whoopings on everybody. You've got Calm, who knows what it takes to lift a trophy. And I think Leviathan even could finish in the first spot. I wouldn't be surprised. But I think when we talk about ceilings and potential, with knowing all of these players that NRG picked up, Demon 1, Ethan, Marved, I think as far as for now, that would be the way that we'd have to look at it. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to tear me up down in those comments. It's down there, especially on YouTube. I know Moon not too happy, the homie Moon not going to be too happy seeing Cloud9 down there in 5. I think he isn't quite as hyped on Leviathan as I am. I think that's a pretty solid list for our 11 here for VCT's Americas. Hate it, love it, chew it, savor it. It is what it is. But let me know if you like these tier listings kind of being part of our podcast. I think that was relatively easy. I think if we do a podcast, a tier list here and there between our couple of topics that we're talking about, I think I'm okay with that. Sounds pretty cool to me. Maybe we'll do like EMEA next week or something. Could be fun. But let me know in the comments. Let me know over on Discord. But we're creeping up on that 50-minute, close to an hour mark. I wanted this to be a podcast that doesn't expand too long past that hour mark, except for maybe on the really busy weekends. Now I'm starting to think about it, man. When we get to not next week, where we only are talking about, preparing for top 16 for RLCS, but we're on the weekend after, where every region's had top 8s, and we're also talking ALGS. Those might be a little bit longer of an episode. So we'll figure it out. I'll be honest, though, I do feel like the episode itself has cruised along pretty well. I feel like this one came out quite nice. Would love to know what you guys think as far as episode 2 for OnCue Esports. I felt like that was pretty smooth. I can dig this sort of a vibe. Again, I like doing the morning. I like doing the morning recordings. I know that might not necessarily be the best time for getting all of our homies in here live, but I think that's okay. If anything, that just pushes more stuff out to the YouTube. And I think that's absolutely dope too, especially because we're building over there. We're starting to close in on 500 subs over on YouTube, man. So if you're actually watching over on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed one. This is the podcast, man. We do a lot of journalistic style content and stuff like that. Also do a lot of our watch parties over here. It's gonna be a busy weekend this weekend with ALGS. I'm gonna try and watch a little bit of RLCS where we can this weekend. I think the big weekend for us for RLCS will be next weekend, where it's those top 8, top 4 days. I think we're going to be more locked into RLCS those weekends. But again, don't forget to check out the TLDR for the Apex. We posted that up yesterday. Feel like that one came out. But yeah, if you're watching over on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a review if you're listening to this on like the platforms over on, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. I know we're still trying to get released on a few of them. It takes time for as far as the first one, but then after that, we should be fine. But like I talked about over on YouTube, man, we're closing in on that 500 subs. I appreciate every single one of y'all for tuning in, whether y'all are tuning in live when we do these podcasts, we're doing our watch parties, even when we go live over on Twitch just to kind of kick back and do some gaming too, man. Y'all are amazing. But I'm going to get up on out of here, man. We're a little bit over that hour mark. Don't forget until we catch y'all back here for the next one, though. Everything crazy going on in the world today. Be true, be you, be sincere. Game hard and love hard. All right, y'all? It's your boy Q, signing out.